Are you lonely? In this video, I'll be discussing how you can identify if you're lonely and what to do about it. So by the end of the video, you'll be confident of how to deal with it. Coming up. In this video, I'll be showing you the exact strategy I use to identify loneliness and deal with it independently. Hey guys, welcome back to the Aspie world. My name is Dan. I have autism, ADHD, OCD, and dyslexia. I make weekly videos on this topic, so if you're new around here and you want to learn more, remember to hit the subscribe button by clicking that notification bell, otherwise you won't know when my videos are uploaded. Also, if you're watching over on Facebook, make sure to give this page a like and a follow to see daily videos from me. I'll be going over some simple but effective ways to deal with loneliness that I've never really seen anyone talk to in referring to autism before, so buckle up, it's going to be a good one. Okay, so just before we get started, I love asking you guys a question. So here is today's question. What do you prefer? Do you prefer playing video games or do you prefer watching television? Let me know in a comment down below. I read and respond to every single one, so that would be awesome if you can do that. So let's talk about what is loneliness. So loneliness is a feeling that, it's like an unpleasant feeling that you have, which is the mismatch between understanding what social interactions and relationships you want and which ones you actually have. And in a lot of the cases, that's very lonely, and a lonely one at that. Because loneliness is this feeling, you kind of get it without even realizing it. It's not something that you kind of actively think, oh yeah, right now I'm feeling lonely, because it's quite hard to identify, which we'll get onto in a short while. So loneliness, like if you are lonely, then there's nothing to be ashamed about because you're not alone. Do you know, in actual fact, 9 million people in the United Kingdom say that they feel lonely, and they would say that they are lonely. Now, loneliness could be accredited, or the rise in loneliness could be accredited to many things. A lot of people are actually saying that social media and the internet and online shopping has caused a huge factor into the social shift of where we would be outside, socializing with our peers, and going to meet people in social clubs and doing social situations, where now we're just sitting indoors and talking online and becoming more self-isolated. And this self-isolation becomes more of a lonely feeling and a self-lonely fulfilling prophecy that you are obviously in charge of, but you created it by being online and on social media too much, which I don't know is real. I mean, I don't know if that's an actual fact, because people socialize on social media. That's why it's called social media, and there's socializing on social media. I don't think there's a distinct difference between one or the other being a causing factor of loneliness. I believe that people are just becoming lonely because we are finding ourselves more wrapped up in busy things in life, because the strain and stresses of life can hit everybody. So we may not have more time for leisure, we actually have less time for leisure and more time in work and more time sleeping, and then this causes a potential loneliness feeling. I actually did a video all about how I was feeling lonely and how this impacted my life, and if you'd like to see that video, because I think that would give you some value as well, I will leave it in a card above here, and I'll also link it in the description below, so you can check that video out, just so that you have something to look at, and knowing that I came from a background of saying, yes, I have experienced loneliness, and my loneliness was this. So what could cause loneliness? So loneliness can really happen at any given time within your lifespan. It's not like one moment you'll be like, oh yeah, when I hit 19 or 20, then I'm going to become lonely. Nobody can do that. There's no secret recipe for it. But what you do have is knowing lonely triggers, and certain triggers can actually cause loneliness. So you may be subjected to these triggers, and those triggers may cause you to be lonely. If you're watching this and you're feeling like, hey, maybe I am actually lonely because this guy's talking about stuff that I relate to, this may be why. So I'm going to go over a couple of the triggers right now. So a trigger for feeling lonely could be when you start a new job. I mean, we've all done it, where we've been working one job and we know everybody there, and then the next thing we know, we have to apply for like a new job. So we go to the new place, we apply for the new job, we get it, which is cool, which is a good thing, and then you try to settle into that job, and then you get there, you don't know anybody, and it becomes quite lonely. I remember my first day at college, actually, when I first joined. I went to the indoctrination thing, we do all that kind of stuff, and then it was lunchtime, and I thought, well, everybody knew each other, and we were all kind of like going off into these groups and hanging out and having lunch and just getting to know each other, and then I just kind of got my sandwiches and my packed lunch, and I kind of went and sat behind the building on my own and just ate my lunch on my own, and that was kind of a lonely feeling because I didn't really know anybody. So again, starting a new job could be a causing factor or a causing trigger of loneliness. Stop! Okay guys, before we go any further, I just want to say that I'm actually after some more friends on Twitter and Instagram, so if you have Twitter and Instagram, go give me a follow right now. I usually follow back on Twitter anyway, so please go and do that right now. It'd be super awesome. I love having new friends on Instagram and Twitter. My links for that are in the description below. I'll do that now. Another one, going down my list here, another one could be moving to a new place. I mean, how many people here have like moved to a new city or a new town or even a new village and then realized that you don't really know anybody from that village or that town, and then you become kind of isolated because you have nobody to talk to there and you have no one to go and see there until you obviously make new friends eventually. But you know, at that moment in time, you don't have people who you could call friends or call upon just to spend some time with or go to the movies with or whatever. So moving to a new place, huge causing factor for loneliness, and actually a huge causing trigger for loneliness. So just bear that in mind, because that's something that, you know, can happen. And also, I'm going through right now some of the causes, but then we'll talk about impact and how you can deal with it after this. But I thought it'd be good if we talk about the triggers, because by knowing the triggers, then you could potentially know what to look out for in coming future events. Another causing trigger is a breakup. I mean, you know, we've all been in relationships where you'd be, you know, dating somebody and then, you know, the relationship just ends, and then you're left kind of like without that thing that you knew all the time and having that person that you'd spent all your time with, and then that could be quite lonely. Because when you're in a relationship with somebody, they're not just, you know, your romantic partner, they're also your best friend at that time, and the person you spend probably about 80 to 90% of your time with, and that's a lot of time to be spending with somebody who then abruptly just disappears or, you know, moves from your life. So it's definitely one of the major causing factors of loneliness is just having a breakup happen or being involved in a breakup. It's very difficult, and it's definitely a causing factor and a triggering factor. I mean, I've been there and I've had that, you know, it's not good. It's quite a difficult thing to deal with, but also is a huge causing trigger than you feeling kind of lonely. A big one, I know this is a big one, okay? Another big, huge trigger is the death of somebody that is close to you or a loved one. You know, how many people have been really close to like their dad or their cousin or like their auntie or whatever, and then that person tragically dies, and then you kind of feel quite isolated and lonely because they're the person that you went to and you spoke to on a daily basis. Maybe it was, you know, your grandparent that you phoned every single day, or you went to see them every single day, and then suddenly they're not there. So you'll kind of feel quite lonely because you are not there with them anymore, and you're kind of just like, well, who do you spend your time with? How do you then go about your day, you know, without that person? And you know, funny enough, the opposite of that as well is like taking care of people can become lonely. So if you're a paid carer for your grandparents or somebody, and you're spending all your time taking care of somebody, but you're not really spending quality time with them, you're just literally looking after them, this could cause you to become lonely because you're spending all your time around people, but you're not actually doing anything socially. You're not socially interacting. You're not actually being with these people in that moment in time. You're not being with those people on a leisure kind of relaxing basis. You know, there's no chill involved. You're literally going there, doing a job, caring for these people, and then going home. And of course, when you're caring for somebody, it's quite a demanding job. So you're actively engaged in just care work. You're not actually engaged in social and relaxation time. So that's something to bear in mind if you're working in those sectors. And another thing to consider, the last trigger I'm going to talk about, is increased workloads. Now, increased workloads can be quite an interesting one, because if you are dealing with a bunch of different tasks in your job and you kind of manage it and it's okay, but then you get an increase in workload, then the productivity time kind of diminishes, and then you end up spending more time on your workload than you do on your, you know, self-care and leisure and relaxation time. So then that becomes eats into your social life maybe, and then it eats into your home life and friend life, and then, you know, this could cause you to be lonely. You could spend all the hours that you are awake in an office in you know, working your butt off, and then you're not actually spending any time or quality time with anybody else. I know this happens as an epidemic in Japan, and they have a bunch of people who do feel lonely in Japan because of this, because they have this honor to do work to a certain standard, and like, even, you know, you don't leave the office before the boss leaves and stuff, and so if the boss is there until 2 a.m, you know, everybody's there until 2 a.m. So it's another huge trigger, and it's something to look out for, especially when you're dealing with loneliness and feeling lonely. Guys, I'm trying to get to do a little bit of a game here with you guys. So if you think that we can get this video to have 400 likes, that little like bar underneath this little video here, if you click that like button, see if we can get it past 400, that'd be super awesome and a pretty awesome game, and I'll keep back and check and see how it's going. Okay, so feeling lonely, how does this impact your life? You know, we talked about causes and triggers of loneliness. We've talked about like what is loneliness and where it comes from. But in terms of like how it impacts your life, well, there are a bunch of things that actually happen where it actually impacts your life in a negative way, because being lonely isn't a good thing, it's actually quite a negative thing. So this is some of the ways in which it can actually impact your life. An increase in anxiety. You know, being lonely can increase anxiety almost tenfold, because you are probably anxious about certain things. Like, say for instance, you used to see your friends down a club, or you used to do something, playing games or going to do something social with your friends, but then you've become reclusive and you don't do those things anymore. The thought of going to do those things after a long time of self-isolation will cause you anxiety and stress, and anxiety is not a good thing. There's actually a bunch of issues that anxiety can cause on its own, so just having a byproduct of being anxious and having more anxiety from being lonely is not a good thing, and it's something we want to try to avoid at all costs, because anxiety is definitely one of the biggest mental health conditions that is on the rise right now, because a lot of people are dealing with anxiety on a daily basis for a number of different things. But, you know, being lonely doesn't help and actually increases anxiety. So something to look out for. So being lonely can also increase stress levels. You know, a lot of people talk about stress, and stress was like this big one that kind of came out of nowhere. You know, it started kicking people in the butt in like the mid to late 80s and early 90s. And then stress has become this like epidemic in the mid 2000s. And then stress is directly related to all kinds of stuff like weight gain and depression and all kinds of crazy stuff, even weight loss and long sleeping periods or insomnia. You know, it can cause and impact your body in a many way, and that's not a good thing. You know, stress is not good. It can also have strain on your heart and all kinds of other implications, and it just obviously feeds anxiety, and stress and anxiety, these are things that you don't want in your life. So this is another byproduct or the impact of actually feeling lonely and being lonely on yourself, your mind, and your body. Now, depression is something that obviously being lonely can cause, because think about this. If you are isolated and you're spending all your time on your own, feeling quite isolated, feeling alone, and then all of a sudden you have this thought like, oh my goodness, you know, like I have no friends or I have no life, and then you start becoming depressed because it's a negative impact. You know, thinking about being lonely and thinking about, hey, I'm lonely is a depressive thought. So of course, a byproduct of this will be depression, and it's not a good thing. It's actually a very bad thing, and you do need to treat it, because depression is definitely one of huge mental health disorders. But just thinking about it and trying to do something about it, which we'll talk about in a minute, will definitely help you. And of course, all of this has a strain on your mental health. Mental health is so important. People always talk about physical health, and, you know, we're forever like, you know, upgrading our phones and upgrading our, like, you know, digital tech to make sure they're the best quality they can get. But we never think about upgrading our lives or making sure that we're in the best, you know, shape possible in our minds. So mental health strain from loneliness can be a real kicker, and it's not a good thing. So just be aware, those are the ways that loneliness and being lonely can impact your life in a negative way. Okay, so the pinnacle really is what can you do about it? What can you do? You know, so say, okay, Dan, great, you've explained all those things about loneliness. What do I do? How do I overcome loneliness? How do I make myself feel better? How do I push myself forward? How do I overcome all of these things? Well, don't worry, I have a list of things that I'm talking about here, which are tips and tricks that you are going to love, are going to be able to help you if you are feeling lonely or if you become feeling lonely. So the first one, and the most important one, is to reach out to a family member or a friend and explain how you feel. So if you are suddenly feeling kind of like, you know, I'm feeling kind of lonely and I am not feeling too great, then just pick up the phone, you know, or and text or phone call your family member or your friend and just say, hey, look, I'm feeling lonely, I'm feeling quite down, can I come and hang out, or what do you suggest we do? Or even just talking to somebody on the phone or texting them will have them reach out to you in a way which you will feel really good and positive, and that will kind of hopefully rock you out of feeling a little bit lonely and help with the loneliness on a whole for a long term. Okay, so this next tip is one of my favorites, and it's making a list of the things that you want to do more of. And, you know, this could be things like time with friends, or playing computer games, or going to the movies, or seeing family, or going on vacation, or whatever. It could be anything. But as long as you enjoy it and you want to do more of those things, make a list of all the things that you want to do more of, then try to incorporate these into your life. Don't just like write a list and look at it. Write a list, look at it and say, okay, tomorrow after work or before work or whatever, I'm going to do this thing, this task, read a book or play a game or go to the gym or hang out with friends or whatever. Make sure you do that and action it, because the action will be the thing that helps you overcome loneliness and helps you overcome all of those horrible kind of mental health issues that could be present from being lonely. Okay, so number 3 is a really interesting way, and it's kind of like, I always think this is like a mental health hack or like a biohack, if you will. And to help with feeling lonely, why don't you share your time with other people? And what I mean by this is, why not like volunteer at an old people's home where you just go in and just read stories to old people, or volunteer in a charity shop, or like a charity in general. Just go there and just help people out. Because 2 things happen. 1, you will feel great because you're doing something to help people, which is always good, and it'll make you feel good and it'll help your mental health to no end. But the second thing is that you'll be around other people, and maybe people who feel like you and are doing the same thing. And it's a great one if you don't really have many friends, or maybe you don't have much family, but you want to interact with people, you want to reach out to people, then try volunteering. It's a great way to give back to the community, and it'll help your mental health state. Super awesome. Hey guys, if you think that this video can help somebody, please go and share it on Facebook and Twitter to help somebody else today with feeling lonely, because I feel it'd be awesome if we could help each other out. Okay, so this next one is super simple, super easy, and I do it quite often on Facebook. This one is join a new group. So say you're into Minecraft, say you're into cars, say into anything. Go on Facebook or go to a local group and just join the group. Then you'll have friends and people with the same interests, and you will be over the moon happy about your choices to join a group, because you'll be surrounded by a load of people who will be feeling the same as you. And the last tip, which is a super awesome tip, is enroll in a course, like a community course or something free, or maybe it's not free and you want to learn a new skill. But by enrolling on a course and starting a new course somewhere in like a community college or something, then you're opening yourself up to making friends with loads of people and being around loads of people all the time. Like I remember I did a night school course once on counseling and psychotherapy because I wanted to know more about counseling. So after work, I drive to this college and then we'd sit around and we'd do this course, and it was really fun because I got to learn loads of stuff, and there was a bunch of people there who were doing the same thing, which is pretty awesome. So if you like this video and you'd want to see more, make sure to hit the subscribe button, guys, and also check out the videos that are each side of me right now to see the next video. All right, guys, peace.